My name's Guy Kesteven. Been a bike and kit tester for over 25 years. And today I've ridden out into the Yorkshire Dales on the Mason Exposure. A modern masterpiece of super versatile steel all-rounder design with a beautifully delicious steel ride quality and a real backstory of the meeting of metal minds over years and years of experience. So, metal masterpiece, those are big words, and delicious ride quality and incredible versatility, and we'll get to all of those later. We have a close-up look at the bike, but on a basic structural level, you're talking about a primarily Data Zero Uno steel frame set with a custom machined Reynolds 653 straight gauge head tube from Bear in a 44mm diameter, custom machined dropouts to Don Mason's design, and a T47 oversized bottom bracket. But the key thing about all those elements is how they're put together. And not only is Don Mason, what I mean by that is that Don Mason has been designing bikes for 24 years. He was at Kinesis for 10 years before he set up Mason Cycles himself. But the people who built this frame, Cicli Barco in Italy, are another family business who've been going for 65 years. But they've only just started doing small batch frame building. So that's how the Mason collaboration came about. It's like, it really is a flagship product for both of them, something Dom's been wanting to work towards for years. So you've got not only Dom's experience with putting bikes together, but also the experience and skill of one of the most renowned and longest established Italian frame building businesses in existence. And I can only say it really does show, not just in the craftsmanship when you run your fingers over this bike, but also just in the absolutely beautiful way that it rides. And while it might seem expensive for steel, if you compare it to carbon or Taiwanese titanium, you're getting a remarkable amount of workmanship and something really special for your money. And you can buy the Exposure as a frame set, or Mason build it up with a full range of potential transmissions and specs from SRAM, Shimano, and what I'm running here, perhaps most appropriately for an Italian tubed bike, an Italian made bike, Campagnolo's 13-speed e-car group set. But whether you go wired, wireless, or cabled, double ring or single, those little bolted smart port inserts mean you get beautifully tidy and quiet setup. And that's just a tiny fraction of the fixtures and features on this bike. But despite the fact it's covered with more bolts than I think I've ever seen on a bike, and it's a steel frame set, Dom and Cicli have obviously worked together with all their experience to keep the ride not only a really sprightly and lively and rewarding on climbs, but even with these big 650B tyres on alloy wheels, these are mountain bike tyres, it's only just over 10 kilos in a 56, and with Hunt gravel race wheels and light Schwalbe 700 by 40 mils in, was only just over 9 kilos. So it's a bike that can cover distance really quickly, and with the right tyres in, can even hold its own on the road perfectly well. Although of course Mason do the SLR all-road tourer and the Resolution steel road bikes as well. That sprightliness means it's not the most ductile or docile ride. If you want the ultimate in soft steel, but it makes it much more versatile and visceral in terms of what you can do on it. And similarly, the geometry is very balanced. If you want slacked out, longer reach, short stem, mountain bike vibe, but with drop bars. And have a look at Mason's ISO. That's the real off-road adventure bike in the range. Dozier is a much more sort of conventional gravel geometry. It's based on the aluminium bulky model. In that respect, 70.5 degree head angle, 73 degree seat angle, 56 centimetre effective top tube on this 56 centimetre size. But there are 8 sizes to choose from, so although it's not a custom steel frame, you've got really finely tunable options in terms of fit. And you know what, it's not the ISO. You can see with these 650V tyres in particular, with loads of airspace in the rubber, these Victoria cross-country tyres, it's perfectly happy. In fact, it's a right laugh on proper off-road sections. You know, certainly not afraid of a bit of single track. And these lead mines that I'm rolling through now, fittingly, have actually been used since the Roman period. So I'm on a Roman metal bike with English design, riding through metal mining works that date back to the Roman period. I don't put these together by accident, you know. And that's definitely the case with its exposure too. Literally nothing about this bike is accidental. It's all beautifully thought out and detailed. So let's have a look at that now. So I've managed to find a spot sort of out the wind up here in Nidderdale to go through the detail on this bike. So starting with this fully custom rangefinder AS fork, that's Adventure Sport. There is another rangefinder fork which is using the SLR, an all-road bike, but this is a slightly tougher fork. As you can see, 4 different cage mounts on the fork there. You've got built-in dynamo routing up there, and just details like it's so sweetly angled, so you know there's no projection on the wiring if you put it in there. There's mounts for rack, for a randonneur style rack or conventional rack. There's mudguard mounts. This f-stop axle, you can see it has replaceable terminals on it, so you can replace those if the threads get damaged somehow. It's a flat mount on the far side there for those Campag e-car brakes. And again, just look how smoothly that hose comes out of that fork leg. It's a full carbon fork, again, mudguard fixtures on there as well. You can run up to a 62mm wide mudguard with 700 by 50mm tyres, so loads of weather protection as well. And then moving on to the frame, you've got that bare 653 44mm head tube. You've got these little smart point details there. You see, that's a section that's not being used, so it's closed off, but they sit in these little raised lozenges, and again, beautifully angled cabling, so it comes out and around this paintwork so it doesn't scratch it. You've got fuel tank mounts. You've got 4 different mounts on there. You've got 3 on the seat tube. You've got 3 under the belly of the bike there. And if we flip round to the far side, you can get a better view of that T47 bottom bracket. Oversized bottom bracket in there, which not only gives the bike its kind of stiffness and responsiveness, but also means that Mason can route the cabling fully internally, so you're only getting the cabling popping out again here on the chainstay. More bottle cage bosses there. I don't even know what you'd use them for. And then this is a lovely nod to traditional frame building. That little chain pip there to hold onto the chain when you've got the back wheel removed. Again, fully replaceable inserts there for the rear axle. And obviously on this bike, you've got this rather fantastically sculptural 13-speed Campag E-car rear meg. Moving up, you've got this. I mean, again, just look. I mean, those guys at Seekley Barco, they really know how to put a frame together beautifully. You know, this is made for smiles, not just miles, he says cheesily. But the welds and the finishing, it's all so beautifully finished off as this bike, and it's internally corrosion proofed as well. So as well as these 2 beautiful external colour options, your bike is fully protected on the inside. You've got a little Mason signature seat clamp there, and again, replaceable bolt threads on there if there's any problems. Got Mason's own carbon seat post, and then this Physic Argo saddle on top. I mean, to be honest, I think if you're buying this bike, obviously it's a real connoisseur's ride, so I think you'll have your own opinions on componentry and things like that, so I'm not going to dwell too much on those. But Mason are more than happy to work with you to you know, build your own custom bike outside what are very, very well curated complete bike options from them. They're all riders. They've got a huge community of adventure riders within the firm. It's only a small firm down on the South Downs, but they're all mad keen riders, and yeah, they genuinely, you know, it's genuinely one of those companies I have zero doubt in recommending and telling you to go and, you know, consult with them to sort out your dream ride, if that's what this exposure turns out to be, or any of the other bikes in their lineup. Right, so let's get back into the ride now. But one thing I would say, after romping down the rocks of the lead mines there, and now with the traction up here, oh, nearly, that's too much to ask for. I have to say, I'm normally much more in favour of 700C on a gravel bike, just for the speed, nothing. On the lighter stuff, they are smoother, but with the pressure right, these big 650s, this feels glorious. But overall, I mean, like I say, the ride feel of this exposure is just beautifully balanced for what it's about. Still got that zing and spring of real performance steel, and it does feel like a properly sporting bike that really helps make the most of your energy and your enthusiasm, but still got that ferrous forgiveness. But that is a really fine line to tread. I mean, it's running these Ritchie WCS carbon bars now, Venture Max, but it came with a set of new De Guerra riser bars that Don thought I'd like to try and hadn't used himself. And they're nice shape, like the coefficient bars, but really stiff. That was enough to make the front end a much less pleasant place to be. So, you know, fine tuning. The way this rides is a real art. And there's a lot of steel bikes that are very dull and depressing to ride. And what I think a lot of people won't understand is it's something that comes through a lot of experience riding bikes like this. It's just the more you muck about with them, the more bolts you put in, the more you do things like internal cable routing and more cargo fixtures. Every single time you drill a tube or you shape it, you risk really killing it. You know, really killing that essential ride vibe. So the way this is subtly shaped and overlised and butted, beautifully crafted together, and still has this amazingly comprehensive collection of bike packing fixtures on it, really is something genuinely special. But in the same way, you need to know that fixtures can be the arch nemesis of a lovely riding frame. You also need to know that steel doesn't guarantee a good time either. Some of the most disappointing bikes I've ever ridden have been made from steel. And even the most fabled Italian names don't necessarily mean much either. I've ridden Pegorettis and Colnagos that have been massively disappointing. And I'm pretty sure that's actually heresy to say that. And anyone can put a fancy backstory to anything. I mean, you can serve up dry dog food in a bowl at a party and tell them it's organic relish. Or, you know, get snacks from the cash and carry, put them in a foil container, write on the cardboard top with your neatest deli handwriting, and say they cost you a fortune. And I've done both. But this Mason exposure really is a wonderful example of when experience, craftsmanship and collaboration all work brilliantly together. And even with 650B tyres on at proper floppy pressures, you can appreciate all that work that's gone in. It still flows and rolls remarkably well. But that isn't going to just stop me going to get a pie at Kendall's to make sure I get home okay. And while I'm not going to start the whole gravel bike versus mountain bike argument here again, I have to say there is something really nice about all the different hand positions you get from drop bars, and certainly when you're on faster, smoother sections and you can make that aero work. You know, it's a really good way to ride. And while Mason sent the exposure with a 650B XC tyre set up, I've actually spent a lot of time riding it on these Hunt gravel race 40mm wheels with Schwalbe RS slick tyres on there. They're a really fast, light and responsive feel on the road. And because you've got that forgiveness in the steel frame, it's actually a really good match for what's normally a stiff, very race focused set of wheels. But even on 700Cs, it can fit a 50mm tyre into the exposure with room for guards. So, you know, still a really good setup for off-roading as well. But however you want to build it up, there's just something beautifully emotive about the way this bike rides. It's got a real desire to explore. I mean, oh god, that sounds like a right load of horse shit, doesn't it? But it really is something about steel, something about the way this bike's put together that just feels right out in the wilds in places like this. You know, choosing steel feels like a license to relax, but also the durability and sort of timelessness to go further. I really am vanishing up my own custom butted tubes here, but I don't care. this is the kind of bike plumbing that encourages poetry, then maybe that's why it's worth the money to you. It certainly is a beautifully distinctive and, to overuse the phrase, delicious way to explore the world. So there you go, the Mason Exposure, an absolutely beautiful, meticulously thought out, artisan, Italian crafted example of how good a modern steel bike could be. And I think this all-road adventure category is pretty much the best, you know, showcase of where steel strengths really lie. That beautiful, flowing, yet still lively and encouraging ride is just absolutely brilliant for big miles out in the wildness. And I've loved having this bike on test. I mean, massive thanks to Dom. You know, this is a world exclusive on this bike in terms of testing, which, you know, is not only flattering to me, but, you know, if I got these glasses on wonky, I'm going to get rid of them in case they are. But he's taken a bit of a risk here. I've not always got on with his bikes, but so, you know, thanks for still having the guts to send one of your precious new frames. I mean, I think this is particularly precious to Dom because of, you know, the history of working Sickley's Barco. So, you know, thanks to him for sending it in, and it's definitely paid off this time. I think this, you know, this really is an absolutely outstanding bike, and while it might be expensive for, you know, off the peg steel you could call it, I think in terms of true thoroughbred bikes in whatever material, this is a relative bargain when you consider the backstory and the amount of detailing and just the performance of the ride. It really is next level in a whole load of ways. So massive thanks to Dom, everyone at Mason, for getting the bike up to me and for letting me hang on to it for ages. I've had this months. I've been enjoying riding it a whole stack, but also I've been really busy with a load of other stuff, so massively appreciate their patience on this. Massive thanks to Giro Cycling UK and PEs for supporting the channel, and my Patreon supporters who pledge a small amount every month, which really helps with the ongoing sustainability of the channel. So if you really like what I'm doing here, please consider joining me on Patreon as a subscriber. But click for notifications, subscribe, that also makes a massive difference. Give this a thumbs up, like, and if you've got any more comments or queries or anything else you want to know about this bike or other bikes or just anything in general, just give me a shout in the comments below. Always love chatting to the people who are enjoying my videos. But for now, I've been Guy Kestevan on Guy Kes TV in the lead mines above Pateley Bridge, looking forward to enjoying a beautiful tailwind ride home on the metal masterpiece that is the Mason Exposure.